Krishna Dating is the best podcast. Always getting good books, helping Maharaj out. Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Do you have it today, Prabhu? The verse numbers? Okay. Chapter 2, text 57. Okay, we'll chant Sanskrit and translation in unison. Ya sarvatarana bishsenhas tat prapya shubha shubham nabhinandati nadveshti tasya pragya pratishtita. Translation. He who is without attachment, who does not rejoice when he obtains good, nor lament when he obtains evil, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. Text 58. Yada samharate chayam kurmon ganayiva sarvasha indriyan indriyartebhyas tasya pragya pratishtita. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as the tortoise draws his limbs within the shell, is to be understood as truly situated in knowledge. Text 59. Vishaya vinavartante niraharasatehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. The embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. Text 60. Yatato hyapi konteya purushasya vipashita indriyani brahmatini haranti prasabham vanaha. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. Text 61. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matparaha vashe yehi yasyendriyani tasya pragya pratishtita. One who restrains his senses and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of steady intelligence. Text 62. Dhyayato vishehan pumsa sangasteshu pajayate sanghat sanjayate kama kamat krodho vijayate. Translation. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment lust develops, and from lust anger arises. Text 63. Krodhat bhavati sangmoha sangmohat smriti vibhramaha smriti bhramsha buddhi nasho buddhi nashat pranashyati. From anger, delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Text 64. Ragadesha vimuktaisthu vishayan indriyaischaran atma vaishar vidheyatma prasadam atikachchiti. One who can control his senses by practicing the regulated principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord and thus become free from all attachment and aversion. 65. Prasade sarva dukkha chayate prasana chetaso yashu For one who is situated in the divine consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such a happy state, one's intelligence soon becomes steady. Text 66. Nasti buddhira yuktasya na cha yuktasya bhavana na pa bhavyaviti shantir ashantasya kuta sukham. One who is not in transcendental consciousness can have neither a controlled mind nor steady intelligence, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? 67, final text. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano duvividiyate tadasya hareti pragyam payornavam vivambasi. As a boat on the water is swept away by a strong wind, every one of the senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Okay, so we'll return back to chapter 2, text 57. Okay. He who is without attachment, who does not rejoice when he obtains good, nor laments when he obtains evil, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. Purport. There is always some upheaval in the material world which may be good or evil. One who is not agitated by such material upheavals, who is unaffected by good and evil, is to be understood to be fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one is in the material world, there is always the possibility of good and evil, because this world is full of duality. But one who is fixed in Krishna consciousness is not affected by good and evil. Because he is simply concerned with Krishna, who is all good, absolute. Such consciousness in Krishna situates one in a perfect transcendental position called technically samadhi.
to translate it again. So there's good and evil. It may have to be clarified what's meaning here. It means apparently good and apparently evil. Obviously, if something is actually good, then it's good. And we like that. And if it's actually evil, then it's bad, and we shouldn't like that. But when it's apparently good and evil, and that's the nature of material things, duality. In other words, there's no such thing as absolute good in the material world, because there's some bad parts to it. And there's nothing that you can say is absolutely bad. There's some good things about it. So, one who gives up the conception of good and evil, he doesn't consider anything good or evil here. It's just all nonsense. It's just all like being in a place where everything's made of salt. So everything's just salty. Everything in the material world is just material. And material means all the things that are included there. Temporary, falsity, not reality, repeated birth and death, all kinds of suffering. So that's the idea. That one he doesn't rejoice when he obtains good. Because we might think, well then why do we see sometimes devotees, when they do something that apparently is like a good thing, they cheer. They get excited, they get happy. They may even dance. So it seems like they're getting elated by some good thing. But no, that's not the same thing as here. Here means that he doesn't get excited about anything that comes from the material world, but things that are spiritual. Spiritual things are always enlivening to the devotee. So, just like when Prabhupada would arrive at a place, you might say, well, it's going to be a great thing. Someone says, no, it's so great, it has to be an equal. It has to be an equipoise. Shouldn't rejoice. No, that is the time for rejoicing. When we see the Lord, we see go to the Lord, when something wonderful happens, to spread Krishna consciousness. So that's the difference. That it's nothing to do with the material. Material, he doesn't get involved very much. He has to live here, so he has to carry out his duties in Krishna consciousness. So he has to go through the so-called good and the so-called evil. It's like politics. If you live in a particular place, you'll probably be affected by the philosophy of the leaders. So everything that they will say about a so-called enemy will be bad. It's like I was raised during or hate the communist regime. We're supposed to better dead than red. That was they had a saying like that. So everything about the Russians was bad, we thought. So Shyama Sundar said in his book that when Prabhupada was talking about how nice the Russians were going to be, how they were going to be great Krishna conscious, I had a hard time believing it. I couldn't believe the Russians could do anything good. But see, that's just politics. And anything in the material world, what's good? Even what's good about money? You say, it's good. I've got money now. Not good. Because what are you going to spend it on? What's your consciousness going to, what's your heart? Nothing good comes out of that. But if someone gives a Krishna consciousness movement a large donation to spread, then that's transcendental good. When people ask a devotee, how would you like the food? He'd say the prasadam was transcendental. He won't say good or bad. He doesn't make these kind of these dual descriptions, duality. He stays clear of that because he knows if I say it's good or bad, I'm bringing in the material side. But it's all transcendental. And the material world is all bad. There's no good, really. But sometimes we like to say there's good. And the example is given that cow dung, when it's wet, they stick it on the wall in the sunshine and then it dries out. But while it's wet, it sees the dried cow dung is being burned. They use it for cooking fuel. So the wet cow dung lasts and jokes, look at that poor dry cow dung being burned, and I'm peaceful here. He doesn't know that in a few minutes he's going to be in the fire. That's the idea of so-called good and bad. If someone says, this is a great place to live, it's wonderful, it's got all these good things. But those great things are not actually great. They're all binding ones in the material world. Even if he says that they're good because they're good for the health, but that's not necessarily good for the health anyway. Because the more he becomes conditioned and attached to the material world, we read there. One who becomes, he meditates on whatever he concentrates on, he becomes attached to it, and he develops Jayatevsha Pung Sang Sangat. You want to say, what is it? Jayatevsha Pung Sang. Vishaya. Jayatevsha Pung Sang. Sangat Sanjayate Kama. Lust develops. He wants to have it. By meditating, he becomes attached to it. We play a certain type of music, we listen to it and we become attached to it. Even if before we didn't like it. Eventually we'll become attached to it. And then we'll want to have it, enjoy it. I want to have a good way to play that music. So I have to have this. I can't get this out of me. Someone else comes and plays louder, I'm angry. So this is the material world. You can't go by things like apparent good and apparent. For those things he's not interested. But for Krishna consciousness, everything becomes good. Therefore, some devotees like Raghunath Das or one of the Raghunaths, he was so transcendentally situated, he wouldn't even hear of a devotee's misbehavior. He just considered devotees are all wonderful, and I don't mind their so-called faults. They're engaged in devotional service. he wouldn't speak or hear of any misdeeds by devotees. So that's a wonderful position of the first-class devotee. He's beyond the stage of fault finding. He sees only good in the devotees. Now, someone may complain, yes, you see only good in the devotees, that's not a very good plan, because then whatever they do that may be harmful to others, you say is okay because he's a devotee. That doesn't make sense. And they become angry. So, there is a difference. A real devotee is one who doesn't engage in activities that are harmful to others. He's engaged in the beneficial work for all living entities. He's Suridam Sarvabhutanam. As Krishna is the dearmost friend of everyone, so the devotee is the dearmost friend of everyone. He's everyone's friend. Whatever he does is good for everyone. Even a snake, a saintly person won't harm a snake, but if that snake is in a position where it may cause harm, then a snake may be apparently cruelly acted upon. And that's not falling down from the spiritual platform. So there's some things, subtleties to learn about how Krishna consciousness may appear to be, may look like it's material also. The thing, your people also drive too fast. Your people also do this, do that. So then what do you say about that? Well, a devotee, there's a verse in Bhagavad Gita. What is it? Yeah. Even if...
Sadhureva samantavya.
I can't remember the beginning. Anyway, the verse says that even if one commits the most abominable activities, if he's engaged in devotional service, he's considered saintly. Shipram, the verse after it, you can get this one. Shipram, K-S-I-P. Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvachichantim nigachati. So that means very quickly does he become righteous. Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvachichanti nigachati. Konteya pratikjanihi nami bhakta pranashati. He may declare boldly for you that my devotee is never vanquished. Shipram, K-S-I-P. Very quickly does he become righteous. Because I, sitting in his heart, I purify everything. In other words, he's a devotee. Even if he does something abominable, because he's engaged in devotional service, he'll quickly be rectified. Don't worry. So sometimes Prabhupada would exhibit this when there would be some complaints against his devotees. There, one complaint was that he wrote, got it? Find it? Before that, the verses before that. Sanskrit? Apichet sadhuracharo bhajate mam ananyabhak sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavasito isa. Translation? So Prabhupada goes to great lengths to explain that. It's not arbitrary. It's that he's engaged in devotional service. And the faults that he has left over from his untrained self, they'll go away quickly. Whatever bad things he apparently is doing will give up quickly.
Jai Maharaj. So, yeah, this good and bad, not the most high priority to distinguish or to discriminate against that, but rather the devotees are asked to discriminate what is favorable for the execution of devotional service and what's unfavorable. So then the devotee, we hear later on, Krishna was describing how we're able to, Krishna describes about discrimination. He talks about how the devotee brings his senses, withdraws them from the sense object, just as the tortoise draws his limbs within the shell. He is to be understood as truly situated in knowledge. So then one can say that it's not an impersonal type of a thing where move it to that side. It's not an impersonal type of thing that everything is good and all that. No, we have to still discriminate. So if we contact a sense object with our senses, which is not favorable to devotional service, then he restricts himself. Right? He restricts himself. In this purport, we'll go to text 58. It says, one who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects as the tortoise draws his limbs within the shell is to be understood as truly situated in knowledge. The test of a yogi, devotee, or self-realized soul is that he is able to control the senses according to his plan. This is very interesting that, we learn things about the mode of goodness and about practical execution of devotional service, and we get tested because we're supposed to control our senses, and if we're not able to control our senses as we've been directed by the spiritual master and the devotees, then we didn't score very nicely on that one. But what's amazing about Krishna consciousness, as Maharaj was stating, is that Krishna, he gives good marks to anybody who continues, who continues serving him with love and devotion in spite of whatever problems. And there's a wonderful verse that Krishna speaks in the 11th canto where he describes how sometimes his devotees, they're addicted to sense gratification, and sometimes they do it. They do sense gratification. And but the Lord describes how the devotee is a little bit upset about that, and that's discussed in the quote that Maharaj, or the text that Maharaj quoted, where in that verse, in that purport, Prabhupada, as Maharaj said, goes to great lengths to describe who qualifies. He who qualifies to be counted as a saint by Krishna himself, in spite of having some troubles, is one who continues on. So we have to continue on, and we have to give the benefit of the doubt to those who are continuing in devotional service. We have to see them as Krishna sees them. We have to well, there goes Krishna. Serve Krishna in another way, in another place. you know. So it's a nice vision. So we get tested, and what's wonderful is that we have so many directions on how to control the senses. We have so many plans for controlling the senses. We have prasadam, we have the artis, we have our rounds, we have our... So many prescriptions are there. And it gets more subtle. As Maharaj was mentioning that as the body gets older, we have to be really careful about our diet, because it has a big effect on our ability to perform service. Now, Prabhupada discussed a young man can, he can't eat too much, and an old man can't eat too little, right? So he has to be very careful. But so there's so many plans, and when we fail to execute those plans, then control our senses according to those plans which we've been inspired by Krishna, or we hear in the Shastras, or the devotees advise us. We may have trouble with certain things, and they may tell us, you're not supposed to do this, Prabhu, because you got a problem with this, and they're connected, so take it seriously. And then it comes back again, and we just throw it out the window for a few seconds, and then we're back in it again. So we didn't pass the test, but we never give up. So that's the idea, is that we don't become discouraged. Her Grace Malati Mataji came to RVC, and we asked her for some advice. He was like a brand new bhakta that we had met, and he had his skateboard, and we just met him at the park, and he came. Then he met this exalted preacher of Krishna consciousness. So we were at the prasad table, and he was very casual and loose. It was really mystical how Krishna gave him that opportunity to just be in the association of devotees. And he said, okay, tell me the most 3 important things about Krishna consciousness. And so she told us that be very careful with technology. So she told us. She said, this is a very dangerous thing. Then she also said, do not become discouraged for any reason in Krishna consciousness, because when we become discouraged, we are getting attracted to the smiling face of Maya. More or less, those things are synonymous. To be discouraged in Krishna consciousness means to be encouraged to enjoy our senses in the material world, because we don't have a choice, because we just have to enjoy. We have it built in, because Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, Adi Purusham. Nobody enjoys better than Krishna. We think we're a big enjoyer when we have a big cigar and a big car and a big house and a big bank balance and a big blank and a big blank. But Krishna, nobody can enjoy better than Krishna. But we, being part and parcel of Krishna, we have that same quality. So we have to enjoy. So if we don't enjoy service to Krishna, we must try to enjoy matter, which is actually impossible. And that's why it's called Maya. It's illusion. Because it's impossible to enjoy matter when we are not matter. That's why it's called Maya. Because we're in illusion that I can enjoy something which is impossible for me to enjoy. But still, we do it because we have a bad habit of that. So, the point I was trying to make is, she made that point. Her second point was, do not become discouraged. And the third point, Rishi and I, we were there, and we were taking notes, and I think we have it, but I don't have it right now. That one is lost for the moment. But those are 2 very important instructions. And she was really serious about it. Be careful with technology, because this has a very powerful effect on our consciousness, and it's a very tricky tool to be used in Krishna's service. And specifically, she mentioned how there's so much misinformation in that world of technology. When you read Prabhupada's books, when you meet with Prabhupada's devotees, when you hear Prabhupada's lectures, that's straightforward. It's all there. It's clear. It's understandable. But when you get on the internet and you got who knows who saying this and saying that, and then we're getting confused and we're seeing this little something over here which is a little bit on the edge, and then we're comparing it to that thing that we heard, and you just get lost. And plus, there's so much misinformation that's like, it's literally contaminated. Like Maharaj was describing how Krishna says that the devotee is a sadhu, he's perfect. Not perfect in every way, but he's considered a very saintly person by Krishna if he continues serving him. So we may hear some blasphemy. Who's heard some blasphemy of the devotees or ISKCON on the internet? That is not healthy to put in the ear, is it? It's not healthy to put inside of your ear. Because, for one, it's not how Krishna sees it. Actually, Krishna doesn't say in the Bhagavad Gita that we should... He doesn't say anything about fault-finding. He actually says the opposite about fault-finding. One who has aversion to fault-finding, that person is in knowledge. But still, we get into this thing, and we get on the internet, and there's a lot of fault-finding. But Krishna says, don't see the faults in the devotees. Rather consider them like sadhus. And one who's in knowledge is averse to fault-finding. This is very, very tricky and very important. And Lord Chaitanya, he actually emphasizes this in some of his instructions in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, how important it is to be free from this tendency to fault-find, you know. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that don't become discouraged. Continue on, right? So, what time it is? 10. Let's read the rest of this purport, 58. Most people, however, are servants of the senses and are thus directed by the dictation of the senses. That is the answer to the question as to how the yogi is situated. The senses are compared to venomous serpents. They want to act very loosely and without restriction. Does anybody have realization of that sentence? They want to act very loosely and without restriction. Anybody? Yeah? Have you realized that personally? It's true, yeah. You go on Sankirtan and you will be tested. You will be tested, you know? You know? Okay, go ahead. But you have a mic? Could you use one? Yeah, we can use this. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, like when we're on Harinam, the test is like, it's pretty clear that there's the test is in session. But when it's when we're like on temple grounds, and we're just going throughout the day, it's a little hidden, and so we kind of forget that we have to be mindful of if we're being loose or something, or even like when we're, I don't know, I guess like the one thing I can think of is Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't. But what about because like sometimes we're kind of holding on a bit much, and it kind of gets in the way of nice bhakti. Nice service, and maybe nice
holding on to what?
It's like holding on to who we think we are, and holding on to our mind, and holding on to okay, I'm not going to sing very loudly because I'm holding on to such and such, or maybe I'm not going to really try to wake up because I can just wait till whatever time. I'm holding on to these things, but if I were just to be a little bit more loose and just kind of okay, I woke up at 3:30 to use the restroom, might as well just stay up and be up. Or okay, everyone's singing, so might as well just sing. But so in that way I just kind of be loose. So that's what I'm thinking about.
Thank you. Yeah, just to point out a few things that I heard that I can reflect back was that the environment in the temple is a type of an incubator, you could say. More or less, our senses are safely engaged in this temple premise. Now, we have to be careful with the opposite gender, even within the temple. And we have to be careful of things like oversleeping or overeating within the temple also. Those are dangers that our senses try to kind of let loose with those things sometimes, even within the temple. But if you let loose, with the touch sensation and, or the, move your body quite, dexterously for the pleasure of their lordships, or you let the sight sense loose within the temple, to drink in the form of the Lord on the altar, then you'll be protected. So then when we go out, Krishna will remind you. Can you turn that one off? Krishna will remind you. And Krishna will bless you to be able to do this in 58, text 58. The tortoise. And whenever there's some completely unnecessary sense gratification, you just withdraw the senses. I don't need it. But it's important that your mind isn't dwelling also, isn't it? Sometimes we may see on the plaza some beautiful woman. Something was a disaster. And we saw something we shouldn't have seen. Mind is still addicted to thinking about, contemplating that object, isn't it? That's why. What is the only way? That was discussed later. Right? Param drishva nivartate. Next verse. Param drishva nivartate. Get a higher taste. So that's a service. So if you chant loudly the holy names and you dance for the Lord and you get really into the kirtan and you get a taste for serving and glorifying the Lord's beautiful form as the Nama Rupa, the form of the holy name. If you glorify that form enough, Krishna will give you a higher taste, and he'll say, no need to glorify that toad form over there. That body on this earthly planet looks like a toad compared to the heavenly planets. You find the most beautiful form on this planet, it's a toad. That form is bogus compared to the higher forms. So this is the idea, is that Krishna will bless you to remember. So then you mention another thing. Sometimes there's a looseness which is a little bit favorable. That looseness means you let go of your preconceived notions of yourself and you surrender to the program. You say, hey, devotees are taking prasadam, I'll take prasadam. Devotees are chanting holy name, I'll chant the holy name. Devotees are going to the kirtan, I'll go to the kirtan. I'll do the arti. I'll do book distribution. I'll clean the temple. I'll get up from my bed. I'll give up my idea of how I was going to be happy, and I'll kind of go with the Krishna conscious flow of things. That looseness is favorable. Anybody who takes the inspiration from the devotees and just kind of goes with the flow, they become a devotee. They become a devotee. And that's why one time Maharaj was describing to me that those who go on Harinam become devotees. We think we're going to go on Harinam and make devotees. You go on Harinam and become a devotee. Isn't it? Isn't it? You go on Harinam and you become a devotee. That's who's getting made a devotee. Maharaj is making us devotees by sending us on Harinam. He says, okay, you guys do Harinam every day. Then we become devotees by that service, by that getting a higher taste. So we glorify the holy name, we get a higher taste, then we can say no to sense gratification. Otherwise it's not possible. So that's our fight. We have to fight for that higher taste. And Maharaj specifically mentioned that that's the fight that we do in this day and age. We're fighting the mind and the senses. Arjuna had to fight on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He literally had to kill warriors with a bow and arrows. Right? Our fight is of the mind and senses. We have to fight to serve the senses of Krishna, fight for the higher taste, and stay absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And then, that's it. If we're completely absorbed in trying to serve Krishna's senses at every moment, then we are perfect. Because we're perfectly engaged. Go ahead.
Is that okay, Prabhu, if I ask you a question?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you're talking about sense control and engaging our senses in Krishna's service. And we tend to think of sense control in like a moral context, as like something like to refrain from sinful activities, or unethical behavior. But sense control also depends on having a working set of senses to begin with, and a sound mind and body. So it's not just a question of ethical or moral restraint, or even like strong sadhana, but it's the blessing of having a working set of senses to begin with, because not everyone does. Some people are just going through things that we can't really even understand. So I wanted to ask a question surrounding this. It's like not everyone, like we see this in old age, there's so many different kinds of dementia. More or less everyone gets dementia when they get older in some form. And, or if someone has a physically traumatizing experience, this can really alter the makeup of how someone sees life. So how can we press forward and still engage in Krishna consciousness if that's the case?
Yeah. Well, you brought up a good point. Actually, Krishna consciousness is for the sane. You have to be sane. So if you're deranged, if we're too deranged, right, you just can't do it. So that's a very good point. And actually, that's why it's important, prasadam and kirtan. Holy name, prasadam. General public and all the new bhaktas, prasadam and holy name. Isn't it? We got to become sane. It takes a while. I remember I was having really crazy stuff. 6-9 months. Kept being crazy. Just, now you say the word, we don't want to be insensitive to some karmic results that lead one to have, major imbalances that are physiologically describable and things like that. We're not trying to be insensitive. But in general, who's crazy? Anybody in Maya. We're all crazy. So we need prasadam and kirtan to get sane. Then we can control the senses. But so in the beginning, the idea is that senses are naturally uncontrolled. So then we replace it with all the higher stuff. Now sing and dance with the devotees. Now take amazing prasadam. Now see the beautiful form of the Lord. Smell the amazing incense. Dress in wonderful, beautiful clothing. Enjoy life surrounded by beautiful people. Enjoy beautiful transcendental temples. Amazing literatures and stories about, saints and sages and all these things. So we have a lot. That's our job to do more to please the Lord's senses, and then that way automatically everyone's senses will be pleased. Just imagine this, say big festival day. Big festival day, a few days before, we get some whole big idea. We get all these flowers picked up, strung up. We do all these arrangements. We do a big backdrop for Prabhupada, huge circle, and put this whole sun and moon and all these amazing peacock feathers inside of it, and all these colors, and all these pillars turn into trees, and the whole front yard is covered in a big tent, and there's huge kirtan going on, and the whole huge dance floor, and there's big Ratha Yatra festival down the street, and everyone's just covered in garlands. Why not? It's amazing. So the dream is big, dream it, let's do it. And if we do it for Krishna, everyone will be like, whoa, amazing. So if you like kirtan, do it. Sing for Krishna, make it pure. If you like these books, give them to everyone you meet, more and more. Get them to read the books, get them to come. Let's do the thing, let's follow the books. So many ways. If we like decorations, we like the deity worship. Anyway, so the prasadam. Somebody's got to make the prasadam, I need a lot of that. Gonna have a lot of hungry boys. So this is the idea. When we serve Krishna's senses, everyone's senses will be pleased. So if we're insane, even if we're insane and our senses are completely deranged and we can't control nothing, if we just associate with the devotees, then that's the mercy. So, even if we lose our mind and there's we say things that devotees don't say, or we forget to offer our food to Krishna, or we just get lost, or look at girls or something, Krishna's protection is there. Krishna looks at all the service that we did before, and if we stick around the devotees, then we'll hear kirtan and we'll see the form of the Lord and take prasadam and all that. So as far as not having the ability to control our senses because we don't have a working set of senses, if we're really that karmically in trouble, then it may take some time. But we can still give the mercy by liberally, profusely distributing that which is very easily consumable, which is the holy name and prasadam. So they can make sure to get an elevated birth later if they're really too karmically bound. Say they're just not ripe yet. It's okay. Krishna will send another devotee later and they'll be just fine. They'll be a great devotee. So anyway, sorry for the long-winded answer, taking the time. Thank you. Thank you very much, devotees, for trying to push on this movement. It's a lot of fun if we are seeing it, for what it is, So we have to remind each other sometimes. So, don't be afraid to remind me that we're having a great time, and that's the idea. Okay, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees.